Hello everyone, it's Melanie. I am working on another little scrappy thing today, using up scraps. And as you know, I like to tell you kind of where the origin of things, where they come from. And I like to sew ruffles on the edges of my journal pages. Like this. I've done it on most of my Golden Book journals. So I've been doing it for a while, but I made this journal last year sometime because I know I finished it at a quilt retreat, I think, in January. And it's just old papers and book text that I painted with a gift card. So once I bound it and I covered the binding with some glitter corrugated paper, once I bound it, I thought, oh, this would have been a great book to do ruffles in. But I had already bound it and it was too late to sew it. Although I have taken entire books and held them up to the sewing machine and sewed ruffles onto them, but I wouldn't advise it. It's kind of cumbersome. So what I thought of when I thought about this as an afterthought, I thought, oh, I could make a tab and sew a little ruffle onto the tab. There's the tab. And then glue the tab onto the page. So that's what I did in this book, is I sewed up all of these little tabs with fabric ruffles on them, and then I glued them all onto the pages. And I just love it. I love it, love it, love it. And I used this punch that I have that punches, it says they're 2 1/4 inch tabs. So I used this to punch all of these tabs that were in here. But I was working on a book a couple days ago and I wanted to do some more of these that I thought, okay, I would like to put this in at the end or whatever. And I wanted some that were bigger. So because these are only, let's see, these are this size, little bitty. So I made a template for some larger ones. I did 2 different sizes. This one is, I think this one is 3 3/4 inches long, and then this one is 3 inches long. And I cut them out of scrapbook paper on my Cricut. I think that's what that machine is called, the Cricut. So yesterday I stitched up some of most of these little small ones that I have in here are left over from when I made this book. But these are the longer ones that I did yesterday. And I kind of think I would even like some that are even longer, so I may have to do some more tabs that are more like 4 1/2 inches long, I think. I think that would be a good length. And then you have to remember that if I'm making this 4 1/2 inches long, then this is, a 1/2 inch smaller here. Anyway, so I thought I'd just share with you my little idea for ruffle tabs. And there are a couple things I wanted to tell you if you decide to stitch some of these. 2 things. One is that paper grain is important. Paper has a grain just like fabric. And the way that you can tell what the grain of a piece of paper is by folding it. If you fold a piece of paper one direction, you get a lot of you'll get some resistance. It's harder to fold. And I'm not trying, I'm just kind of barely folding it. So fold it one way, kind of press on it, and if you get some resistance, try it the other way. So try to fold it the other direction, and you'll see that it's very springy one way. So this one's very springy this way, and if I do it this way, I get a lot of resistance. So that means that the grain of that piece of paper, like here's, let me see, here's a bigger piece. Okay, so here's the, which this has something on it, but fold it that way and then fold it this way. And I can tell when I try to fold it this way, I'm getting a lot of resistance. And when I try to fold it this way, it folds up really easily. So that means that the grain of this paper is running this direction, the direction of the easy fold. And that is the direction that you want your tab to fold on. So for example, if I was going to make a tab out of this piece of paper, see this, it's easy to fold this way, and so the grain's running up and down, which means I want the fold to go up and down, so I need to cut it out with the grain running parallel to the that's important because it makes it easier to fold. And then the other thing I've noticed is that if you sew your ruffle on to the little tab before you make your crease, before you fold it, then when you do go to fold it, so say I've stitched this on but I hadn't folded it yet, then when you try to fold it, it wants to fold where you stitched. So I'm finding that it really helps if you will fold the tab before you place your ruffle and stitch it on. That way you won't have any trouble folding it in the end. So I'm not going to show you a whole lot of, I'll show you how I'm doing them, because the machine's kind of loud and there's really absolutely nothing to this. So here's my little tab. I've just been using a straight stitch, and as far as, you know, the how much ruffle you want to, how much fabric you want to put up on there, that's up to you. You know, I mean, this is a 2-to-1 ratio. That means that my fabric is twice as long. My fabric is twice as long as the area I'm going to attach it to. So it's going to be pretty puckered, or I'm losing my words again today, just like yesterday. Okay, so I'm gonna stitch. Here's the tab I have right here. I'm gonna stitch the fabric on right here. I'm gonna stitch it right there, and then when I fold it over, it'll be right there. So I just gather this as I go, place it on here. And I have to lick my finger so I can gather it as I go. And that's it. And if you want to, sometimes when I make a book that I sew a lot of ruffles into, I'll iron it, iron the pages, iron the ruffles down so they, you know, so they lay down a little flatter. And so say I want to glue this one in as an afterthought, like I want to put another ruffle in this book, although it does not need it. If I want, oh, maybe I'll mark that. I'll put that there on my daughter's picture. Okay, so then all I have to do, this is really elementary, you guys, but I don't have any backing paper. So then all I have to do is attach that, and woo, I stuck it out way too far. I have another ruffle. The ruffle's long. Maybe I want to move it in some. Yeah, that's better. Now I should have moved it up. Oh well, it'll be okay. So anyway, that's how you can attach some ruffles to your pages as an afterthought if you didn't do it in the beginning. So There's another way, guys, to use up your paper scraps, because I just punch my tabs out of scraps of paper, and then for the ones that I cut on the Cricut, I just used some kind of plain neutral, and then I used some that were reversible, but I just used some kind of plain scrapbook paper for those. But the possibilities, of course, are endless. So, oh, I was going to show you this too. So here's some that aren't ruffled, but have just little scraps of fabric stitched onto them, like layered up. Oh, I should have put one of these in there. Stay tuned, because right after this, if you want to see my quilt that I'm working on, because I said I would show you my quilt, so it'll be up right after this, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye! Okay guys, I said I would show you the quilt that I'm working on, because apparently I have quite a few quilters watching, so that's awesome. Here it is. This is a wonky, which just means that I didn't measure and it's not really straight. A wonky, scrappy log cabin. Can you see it? Because I can't see through it to tell if I'm holding it up right. So this is it. It's the only traditional log cabin thing about it is that it has the red square in the middle of each block. And I'll show it to you close up a little bit. I can't remember how many blocks it has, but so here's what it looks like kind of closer up. Let me show you the quilted part. Can you see? Can you see it? See the shadow? Okay, so I'm quilting it with a stitch I'm stitching in the ditch. There's the quilting, and you can also see how kind of wonky the blocks are when you look at it on the back. But traditional log cabin quilts usually have some kind of a pattern to them, like you know, this half of the block will be one color and this half of the block will be another color, and then when you put them together you get these really cool effects and stuff. This, to me, this quilt reminds me of the quilts at my grandparents' houses when I grew up. And I like it because almost, for the most part, every one of these fabrics I remember, because I have a really visual memory, I remember where I got this piece of fabric. There's fabric in here from the fabric that my mom used on my prom dress, my senior prom dress. There's fabrics in here that are left over from quilts that I made for other people. There's fabrics in here that I got from estate sales. There's some fabrics in here that I just love. But basically, what it kind of reminds me of, makes me think of, is that those quilts at my grandmother's, every time you would use it, you would notice something different. So that's kind of what I love about it. And with this quilting, it's got a kind of medium loft wool batting. And so I'm hoping that with this quilting, I don't know if you can kind of see, but since every one of these little boxes is outlined, that when it washes and crinkles up, it'll just get scrumptious and crumply and wonderful. So anyway, this is the quilt I'm working on. It's got, I don't know, it's got a lot of squares because, you know, it's big enough to totally cover me. I can't remember how big it is though. Anyway, just thought I'd share. Bye guys.